You're listening to The Real Estate Ride. Make sure to subscribe and enjoy the show.
Hard money lenders. So they require inspections after each thing before they release the draw. So that's how we do our business as well. We want to make sure that the homeowner is happy and satisfied with what they're looking at and what their vision was for their project or their home. So we want to make sure that they're good with that. We also want to make sure that our contractors are doing what they're expected to do in the time frame that they're expected to do it from start to finish. So we have our project managers check our contractors out projects, but we as homeowners also check outside contractors. So we do not suggest that you just pay them because they say they're done. Make sure that you are satisfied with the job that they have provided and the work that they have done. Hello and welcome to Real Estate Ride. It has been quite the week for us so far, but hey, that's in real estate. You never know how it's going to go.
That's right. It isn't all peaches and cream.
No, not at all.
And one of the bigger challenges is always working with construction companies or contractors. And so today's episode is going to be the best practices for a smooth rehab project.
If there is such a thing.
As smooth as possible.
There you go. To make it as smooth as possible.
Because let's face it, a contractor or construction company can definitely make or break your deal.
Yes, which is basically why we started a construction company 10 years ago, because our contractors that we were working with were breaking deals for us all of the time. Not necessarily like breaking it to where it didn't make any sense anymore and we just let it go, but breaking it into our profit margin, which is the majority of why we flip, right? So we flip houses as part of our overall real estate business, not only to be able to provide housing for people that need it and affordable housing for first-time home buyers, and have a great place at the same time, but profit, right? Like that's why we're in real estate, to make money, to provide for our families and to help other people provide for their families that work for us. So when our profit margins are screwed up because of stupid things that contractors do, it gets frustrating. So 10 years ago, we were experiencing more and more and more of that. And so we decided to start our own construction company, which is still in business today, and what we use for not only our stuff, but our coaching students' stuff if they're interested. People that we know, people that know us and like us and trust us, come to us for house improvements and house projects. So all of these things in this podcast episode that we've put together are probably things that we've experienced ourselves.
They are things we've experienced ourselves.
And things that we would like for you to avoid by learning from our mistakes.
Yes.
And challenges. So when you're looking for a contractor, the first thing that you need to decide, first and foremost, is, does the project reside in a part of town that requires permits, licensed contractors, or any other particulars that you need to have? For instance, we have some properties in a historic society, so you have to go in front of the historical board to get approval on all of the things that you want to do to the house, both inside and out. They're a little more particular on the outside than they are on the inside, but still, you have to get approved by the board before you even pull a permit.
Yes, so if you're going to try to change a window shape or something like that, that's where what you decide to do on the inside is going to be affected by what decisions are made to do on the outside.
And what you're allowed to do on the outside.
Like we're doing one in Columbus now that is close to Children's Hospital. And, initially we would have liked to have changed the kitchen layout and deleted a window, but that would not be allowable with the historical society. So know that if you are working with a historical property, before you even get your permit approved, you must have your historical elements, if you're doing anything to the outside, all of that has to be approved prior to the approval of your permit. So the city will not approve your permit until you have that approval from the historical committee that is there. And depending on the extent of what you're doing on the outside, it may only require one person to approve what you're doing. On our project, we were doing a number of things on the outside. So the one individual wasn't able to approve that. And so we had to sit in front of an entire committee. And you should also know that if you're going to deal in historical, expect things to take a lot longer because the historical committee only meets once a month.
Right. So first and foremost, we had to figure out what day they met, right? Because we had no idea. So then we had to figure out what all we needed to bring in order for us to meet the committee. And the committee had, I believe, 7 or 8 members.
Yes.
And each member had to have a printed
colored
copy of what you were planning on doing. So not only did we have to put this whole packet of information together for everything, what the SKU number was for the paint.
Yes, the color.
What the SKU in the picture was for the lights that we were going to use. What doors that we suggested that we use for the front door. If we were changing any trim paint, we needed to have the SKU for that and a picture of where that paint was going to go. So there was a lot of prep work that was involved and went into getting this certificate of appropriateness from the Historic Society, which is the first step in getting a permit.
Yes. And they actually did not approve everything initially, but luckily they approved most of our stuff. And then, like, as an example, we picked a fancier front door and they denied us putting that in. So we didn't have to meet the committee again for that, but then we did have to get approval from the one individual for the little changes that came afterwards.
Yes. So there was a whole packet of information that we had to get developed for each person on that committee. And then we had to go sit in front of that committee when they finally did meet and work through all of the page by page.
It was kind of intimidating because it's like a whole row of people, right, and it's like the two of us seated in the middle of this big room and everyone is,
giving their input.
Staring at you.
So that was the first step. And it took us several weeks for that to happen. And then we had to go and apply for the permit for the city of Columbus. And depending on how busy they are and what they've got going on.
Yes.
As of right now, which is January of 2025, they have 3 weeks to approve a permit. That's their typical timeline. So that also eats into your holding costs and your timelines for your budgets. So that's an important part that you need to know as well.
Yeah. So you could be a month out just to meet the committee. And then once it's approved, which it could be another month before it's approved. So you're looking at 2 months. And now you're applying for your permit now that you have that certificate of appropriateness that Annie mentioned. So once you have that completed, now you can submit your permit, and you're looking at up to 3 weeks. So 15 business days is how they're referring it to us currently. And then you want to make sure, obviously, if you're buying a property, you get a home inspection. It's going to tell you everything that's wrong with it, and that is going to help you to determine. You have your wants that you want to do to the property, right? And then you have the things that show up in the inspection report that you personally don't really care or want to do it, but you need to do it.
To do it because the inspector said so.
A good example is if you are adding a bathroom to a property, and so now you're changing the rough-in plumbing, and maybe you have an old cast iron stack in this house, and you don't want to replace it, but the plumber says it needs replaced in order to pass the pressure test. Right. And so now you have added expenses that you weren't necessarily wanting to spend on, but you need to spend on.
Right. So all of these things could come into play. Like, you're not always going to be doing a house in a historic society, most likely, but you could come across those because a lot of them are really good deals because there are a lot of people that don't want to deal with going in front of the board for the historic
Right.
society.
Right.
The other thing is that we do a lot of things that other people don't particularly want to mess with or do, with flipping houses in particular. So we go after the ones that need foundation work, that need plumbing stacks that need to be replaced. So we're coming at you with the good, bad, and the ugly
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
stuff that we do. So
Yeah, and we wanted to do a big value add. So an example on that one, we raised the roof rafters up so that we could finish the third floor attic area into a owner's bedroom and bathroom, and then that requires a whole nother list of items.
right.
So it's good to work with a experienced general contractor to know, hey, and if you want to finish this space, you need to do this and this and this. So you really want to meet with multiple general contractors
Yes.
when
for
you're sharing your vision, when you're deciding, what is the budget going to be on this project. Hopefully you have an idea beforehand before you make your offer and put it under contract.
So along those lines, hopefully you have an idea beforehand. We personally have developed over the years a checklist of stuff that we carry through on a property, things that we've done in the past, things that come up in projects that we have had coaching students involved in, just different things so that you can do a quick review as you walk the property for the first time, looking at this checklist and then seeing, does this need done? Does this not need done? So that's a good thing to have. It doesn't have to be fancy. It can be on a piece of paper. It can be an Excel spreadsheet. It can be whatever you want it to be. But, your basic things, your foundation, your plumbing, your HVAC, your electric, are those all in good order? Do they have the furnace? Is the furnace missing? Is the ductwork there? Is it been stolen? There's all kinds of things that could come into
Is the
play.
furnace 25 years old,
Right.
which the life expectancy is 25 years at
Right.
most?
And the same with the water tank, the hot water heater. Is it rusted out at all? Is it leaking from the bottom? Is it old? Is it new? Is it there?
Yes, and if you're adding bathrooms, is it big enough to handle? We have one right now where we want to add a shower. It's 1.5 baths, but this property in particular has a really small water tank. So really, if you want to add the bathroom, then you also have to budget in, $1,000 to $1,500 for a new water tank to go in as well to be able to handle that second shower.
Right. So, look at your roof. Look at insulation. If you can get up in the attic, is there any? Do you need more? Is it to code?
Yes.
There's lots of different things that you have to evaluate as you walk through a property. And the more you do it, the quicker you'll get at evaluating those items. But with a checklist, it makes it very easy so that you don't forget to look at anything that you may need.
Yeah, and figure out your exit strategy. Like, are you holding to rent or are you flipping? If a furnace is 20 years old and we're renting, we'll probably keep it. Now,
And
not
service
every
it.
landlord is like that. We have other investor friends that would prefer just to replace it so it's new and they don't have to worry about it. We're on the flip side where we're trying to reduce as much expense up front to get this thing going and get cash flow coming in. And so we will look at, well, can we repair it? Can we clean it and service it and keep it? If we can get another 5 years of use out of it,
Right.
then, we just reduced our upfront expenses by thousands of dollars.
And in some instances, that's not going to work because some places that we have boiler systems and we don't keep those boiler systems because that just doesn't make any sense. One, you cannot really regularly work on a boiler system because nobody works on them anymore. And parts to find replacement parts for them if something breaks is more and more difficult and more expensive. So if it's something like that, we could potentially switch that out and
Yeah.
most likely will.
And you want to get multiple bids because We got bids from a plumber for a water tank, and the labor installation was anywhere from $300 to $700. And so that's a significant difference and a significant savings if you can have one plumber who is licensed that might work by themselves,
Right.
or have one additional helper. They're the ones that are going to be around the $300 to $400 range. And if you're using a larger company with the trucks and advertising and all of that, you're going
Right.
to pay between $500 and $700
For sure.
for the same exact product and service.
Yes. So just get your pricing before you decide what you're doing for sure, technically. So that's the other thing. You know, we've gotten numerous bids from different contractors, and those pricings, like Jay said, can be 10 times the amount of another person, or very less expensive than a big company. But knowing your numbers, or at least a roundabout idea, will allow you to not only decide what you're able to do with the project itself, but keep it within your budget. So multiple bids from multiple contractors are a definite need.
Yeah, and
Not
the other
want.
thing is, you know, the plumber that's 300 might be a month out.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. The schedules
Right.
of the contractors are very important as well.
Yeah, so find out, you know, how much is it? When are you available to start this project?
Right.
And how long will it take you to complete it?
Because if you have a bid, let's say for, like we do, $4,000 for one person and $700 from another person for the same exact job, but the $7,000, or I mean the $3,000 person is available right away, and the $700 person isn't available for 5 months, then you have to take into consideration, if you wait those 5 months to save that amount of money, what kind of holding costs are you spending in waiting those 5 months? So how much insurance are you paying on the property? How much, you know, taxes, utilities, all of the things, depending on what you're paying for.
Right.
And if you hold out for that person to come 5 months from now, what else do you have to push down the road to get finished on that property? So, you know, are you actually losing money compared to saving money, when ultimately you're just trying to get a contractor in there that's reasonable and that knows what they're doing?
Yeah, and then whoever you do select, make sure that you get a contract with them that outlines exactly what's going on. We're using the hot water tank example. Like, are they using a 40-gallon tank or a 50-gallon
Right.
tank or a 100-gallon tank? And is it going to be electric, or is it going to be gas? Or are you doing a tankless?
Right.
And know, you know, what make and model of equipment they want to use.
Right.
Different water tank companies also offer different warranties on their new water tanks. Some have a 1 year, some have a 3.
Right.
They may have a 5 with furnaces and air. Sometimes you can get a 10-year warranty on those.
It just depends on the contractor and the name brand that you're using too. So for sure, make sure that, you know, if they're licensed, bonded, insured, if they offer warranties on their products, is it just the manufacturer warranty? Or are they offering some warranty on their labor too? So there's a lot of different things that come into play when you're trying to find a contractor that makes the most sense. And it's not always going to be the most experienced contractor either. It could be somebody that's just starting out, which is why they're less expensive than the experienced ones. That doesn't necessarily mean that they don't know as much as the experienced ones. It just means that they are starting out, or they don't have as much overhead or whatever. So just have a conversation with them, get some references for sure, get what is all included in their pricing, because sometimes they put down on their invoices, you know, just the bare minimum. But then, you know, if you're replacing a hot water tank, let's say, since we've been using that, does that include the shutoffs? Does that include the new pipes that may need to be replaced? What all does it include? Does it include them buying the material and having it delivered? Or if they're going to go pick it up? Or do you need to pay for material? Like, any and all of that stuff can be a wide range depending on who you're working with and what company you're dealing with as far as the contractors are concerned.
Yep. So we can work on a contract with timelines. You can even use penalties and bonuses if you want for a bigger project. For a general contractor, you may say, hey, how long will it take you to finish this? If they say 30 days, you can say, I'll give you an extra week. And if you go past that, I'm going to charge you per day. Annie and I would typically calculate up what our holding costs are for each day. That includes taxes, insurance, any utilities, and your mortgage payment.
Right. If you have a mortgage payment that needs to be paid, or if you have a private money lender that requires you to make monthly payments as well, that all needs to be tied into your holding costs. And if you have flood insurance, any of that stuff needs to be tied into your holding costs so that you know exactly what you're spending on a monthly basis or even a daily basis, depending on how you figure it out, to hold that property in your possession until it's done.
Yeah, so if it's a larger project, you could say, hey, you finish in 37 days, no penalty. If you go over, it's $100 a day. Or it's a 30-day contract. If you finish it in 25 days, I'll pay you $500 more. Why not offer them a bonus also to finish early because you have the property done sooner,
right?
And you don't have to pay your holding costs for those days now because the house is done sooner, and that gives them an incentive to finish your job early.
Definitely ask them for references. Even if they have a portfolio that they show you, ask them for references because pictures can be deceiving, especially in real estate.
And we don't mean name and phone number only. We mean like, what's the last 3 jobs you worked on?
What did you do for them?
What did you do for them? What was the budget for it? And what's their name and phone number so that we can call them? And if the contractors aren't willing to do that, then I would not be willing to work with them.
Right, for sure.
That's like a red flag. If you can't take the time to provide a few references of people that can talk highly of your work, then we just don't want you working on our job.
Let's be clear. The pictures can show somebody that knows exactly what they're doing and make it look great at the end product, but that could have taken 3 times the amount of time that they originally said that it was going to. They could have messed it up 2 or 3 times in the process.
Yes.
They could have not shown up for days at a time. They could have been a real pain to deal with, personally. They could have been disrespectful. They could have left messes. All of that stuff is what we look at as far as a contractor is concerned, not only to work with on our projects, but also to hire into our business as the construction company. So make sure that you get references. A portfolio is great, but pictures can be deceiving for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, you who are listening now could just download some pictures from online and send them to us. Like, I did this tile.
Right.
Right. So make sure you call those references and talk to them.
And if they are new and they don't really have a whole lot of references in the area, then ask them what job they're working on now and something that you can go and look at and see, what are they doing? How are they working with the people that are there? Because it's important how contractors work with other subcontractors too. So if they're going in and messing up somebody else's work or fighting with somebody that they don't even know on a daily basis, you don't necessarily want that person working on your property either. So see if there's something that you can go and look at, so that you can definitely see the kind of work that they're producing and the attitude that they have on a job site.
Not only that, but they should have some kind of licensing potentially, maybe not, but they definitely should have liability insurance, workers' comp. So you can ask for updated information on that as part of your agreement to hire them, which we recommend.
Right.
And you can even add in your contract a clause that says, hey, if you're not present on the job 2 days in a row out of a business week, Monday through Friday, then this contract is null and void. Because we've heard numerous stories about people coming and doing part of the job.
Right.
They get some money.
And then they disappear.
And then they don't come back. And you're waiting, hoping they're going to come back. You're calling, texting. And,
right.
it just becomes very stressful. We're just trying to mitigate your stress and make this as smooth as possible, like we mentioned.
Right. Which brings us to another point. Do not ever, ever, ever give a contractor all of the money up front,
No,
because they will disappear and you will never see them again.
no.
A lot of times, especially with our construction company, we ask for half up front and half at the end. We do that so that we can provide them material. But if a homeowner is providing material all by themselves, we ask that they have as much material on site to do each project as possible at the beginning. And we typically break those projects up into phases so we can say, okay, for phase 1, we're going to do the rough-in plumbing, the rough-in electric, whatever the case may be. We need to make sure that you have this, and this on site for us to be able to do that job. If you don't, let us know. And if not, then we may have to push your job even later into the week or month because you don't have the materials there and somebody else does. So
Yes.
if you're a homeowner and you're doing that, offer to buy the material yourselves in order to avoid giving them a large lump sum of money up front. But if you vet your contractor and you vet the company that he works for or he or she owns, then it should not be a problem being able to provide them with money to get material and labor started at the very least.
Yep, but you have options. You may decide, like Annie said, you just buy the material, pay them when they get a portion done, pay them some more. You can split it up into draws with them.
Absolutely. That's very common. Contractors are used to working on a draw system.
Yeah, obviously there's not going to be a draw for a water tank, but
Right.
if you hire a GC and they're doing demo, you might pay them upon completion of the demo, and now they're going to bring in the utility subs to do the electric, plumbing, HVAC systems, or if there's any structural work to be done, you're going to do that next, and then pay them for that portion, and you just pay them after the inspection is done and it has passed.
So along those lines, we're talking about if the inspection is needed for the city on the permit, but also do an inspection yourself as the homeowner or as the home investor. So we've worked with a lot of private money lenders in our span of real estate, as well as hard money lenders. So they require inspections after each thing before they release the draw. So that's how we do our business as well. We want to make sure that the homeowner is happy and satisfied with what they're looking at and what their vision was for their project or their home. So we want to make sure that they're good with that. We also want to make sure that our contractors are doing what they're expected to do in the time frame that they're expected to do it from start to finish. So we have our project managers check our contractors out projects, but we as homeowners also check outside contractors. So we do not suggest that you just pay them because they say they're done. Make sure that you are satisfied with the job that they have provided and the work that they have done.
Yes, and set expectations up front as to when they should expect to get paid. Because sometimes if we're using a hard money lender, it may be 3 business days is very typical for them to send someone out to inspect, take their photos, upload to your hard money lender's portal, then they review, and then they pay you out. So you don't want them thinking, oh, I'm going to get paid as soon as I put my tool in my tool bag,
Right.
I'm getting paid, and that isn't normally the case. So if you set the expectations up front, then there's no animosity or ill feeling that, hey, I finished today and why am I not getting paid today?
Right. And along those same lines, you need to make sure if you are dealing with a hard money lender or a private money lender that they don't need, what do they need? Like, do they need pictures? Do they need a video? Do they need to send somebody out in person? Do they need a lien release waiver for that contractor? Everybody is different and everybody needs something else that you may not think of. So make sure that you have that information too, so that your contractor isn't waiting to be paid because of something that you forgot to send in or you forgot to do. So a
Yes.
lot of times we make sure that if the lender needs to send somebody out in person, that we say, the lender that we're working with has to have a person to inspect. So that's going to take 3 to 5 business days. So you're going to be paid in 5 to 7 business days, just because we don't necessarily have the money to bankroll all of the projects without those lenders sending us the draws. So just be 100% upfront with anybody that you work with, depending on what your money lender or mortgage company requires. We do a lot of 203K loans as well. Sometimes those people, it's a rehab loan for a buyer.
FHA.
Yeah,
buyer.
an FHA buyer. So sometimes those companies require just pictures. So we can finish the job as a contractor, go in and take 10 to 15 pictures, upload it into their system, and then they send us a draw within a day or two. It just depends on the company that you're working with for both the money and the contractor side of things. So just know what you're going into with eyes wide open, so that you don't run into any issues with getting your money and getting the contractor their money.
Yep, and make sure you get that lien release waiver that Annie mentioned, and that just basically says it's a sworn statement from the contractor or contracting company that says, I've been paid, and any subs I might have used have also been paid.
Therefore, they can't put a mechanic's lien on the house, which clouds the title, which will not allow you to sell it.
Yeah. Not fun.
Not a good time at all. But that's the ins and outs of contracting as far as we're concerned. To just give you a little bit of a glimpse. If you guys have any other questions, reach out to us. This is the Real Estate Ride.
That's right. Thanks for listening in, and we will see you on the next new episode. And also, if you want our checklist, just reach out and let us know.
Have a good day.
Hey everybody, it's Jay.
This is Annie.
We are so grateful for you joining us on our podcast and listening in and participating. We want to offer you this additional free bonus, and that is joining our Facebook group.
Yes, where we will have other individuals, not just us, but having conversations on all things real estate, and we would love to have you join us. So just click the link below and head on over and join our group.
Thanks guys, we'll see you on the other side.